Most of us know the lineage, the tree of the children of Abraham. There were 4 wives. There were 2, which were Rachel and Leah, which were considered the wives. And then there were the shfachot, those that were considered lower, the lower wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. And together they had 12 children or more than that. And all the descendants came from that one tribe of the children of Jacob. But really there were 2 groups within the tribes. There were those that came from the real matriarchs, Leah and Rachel, and there were those who came from the lower, they're called the shfachot, Bilhah and Zilpah. So that those who came from the more elevated parents looked down upon the children of the shfachot, upon the children of Bilhah and Zilpah. Velo nahagu bahem minhag achva. And their interactions with them, their relationship with their brothers and their brothers' descendants was not in true brotherhood and love as it was with the other group. And the Creator, it says, and we don't often find this phrasing, the Creator was in great pain. This was a very difficult thing to accept, to see happen. That amongst this group of 70, the family of 70, you had those who treated the others in a lower way. And what's called the divine spirit, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, the light of the Creator, was yelling in pain and saying, don't you understand? Really yelling at those who consider themselves better, more elevated. Yelling at them and saying, don't you understand that you're all beautiful? Meaning you're all should be seeing each other on the same level. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so the Creator asked himself the question, how can we create a reality, a scenario, where all 70, and then of course all their descendants, and then eventually millions and millions of people, but how can we create a reality within which there's true love and brotherhood amongst all of them, and there isn't this levels and one looking down upon the other? This was the problem. This was the problem that needed a solution. So there was only one solution. Oridem leMitzrayim, I will send them down into Egypt. Ve'yu kulam avadim, and now they're all going to be slaves. So whatever they thought about themselves being better than the other prior to going down to Egypt, now they all become the lowest, because they're all going to be enslaved for 210 years with all the pain and all the suffering that will entail. Ubisha'a she'egalem, and then when the redemption will finally occur, maybe it was going to be 400 years, maybe it was going to be 210 years as it was, v'yomru kulanu aynu avadim leparo, and they will, the story, the truth of their history is that at one point we were all at the lowest. We were all slaves to Pharaoh. Nimtzeu kulam shavim. And then finally, they will all be equal. Bekol kach lama. And why did this have to happen? Leodia gedulato b'shivcho shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so that people could understand the way the system of the light of the Creator works. La'asot shalom ben briotav, that there has to be this equal viewing amongst all the Creator's creations. Lekach nikra shmo shalom, and that's why the name of the Creator is peace, because in order for the light of the Creator to be revealed in this world, there has to be not one person viewing themselves or their family or their tribe above the other. This is a crazy, if you think about it, we can understand it, right? So the Rabbi Hanina is telling us something very simple, right? Why did millions of people have to go through pain and suffering and death and bondage for 210 years? Because they looked at each other differently before. There was no better way. Couldn't the Creator, Jacob, send Jacob and speak to his children as he did and said, listen, guys, I know you have these 2 groups, the children of the matriarchs and the children of the shfachot, but I want you all to get along. They all got along and they all loved each other. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that deep inside, there was this sense amongst one group that they were better than the other group. And that consciousness, it's crazy, necessitated the Israelites all go down to become slaves, where it became very clear to everybody, It doesn't matter who your parents were, from what lineage you are, we are all at the lowest point now. So that out of Egypt, they can all be with true achva, with true brotherhood, with true love. There's a lot of depth to this understanding, but first we have to, I hope we're a little bit shocked by this teaching. Because if it was me or you making the decision and you see a group and we know, of course, love is important, being together is important. But here it's worse than that. That when there's that sense of superiority for one group to the other, that necessitates everybody falling to the lowest and from then rising equally. This, of course, if we understand it, is translated into our daily lives. One of the main reasons, of course, this is the born of the ego, but one of the main reasons why an individual has to go through any type of pain or failure or falling is because inside of him or her, there is a sense, I am better than this person or that person. And in order to destroy that ego, sometimes we have to fall. A person has to fall. A person has to fail. A person has to go into darkness. Because when a person, we've all experienced this, when a person's experiencing pain or darkness, all those other ego thoughts of I am better than this person or that person, they don't exist anymore because the pain is too great to allow for those silly previous thoughts. So to take this very personal, we've all, again, in our lives had moments when we were pushed down, sometimes in great ways, sometimes in small ways. Until we rid ourselves, and this, of course, can be done proactively, and this is really what the Shabbat is about, to really start looking at the others with true brotherhood and with true love as equal to us. Or, chas v'shalom, as the Midrash makes very clear, there has to be a situation with the individual or the group has to fall to completely eradicate. And it took 210 years for millions of people to experience pain, only to come back to a state of true love and brotherhood. And again, as we said, if you ask yourself the question, so often people ask me, this just happened. Sometimes it's something silly, sometimes it's something bigger. Why is this happening to me? The Midrash here is giving us one very important view of why an individual is going, chas v'shalom, has, or in the future will have to experience falling into darkness. You have to ask yourself the question, to what degree do I allow my ego to let me look down upon one person or other people? And that's the answer. That's the answer. It's crazy if you understand it, but this is the way the system works. The ego cannot be a part of blessings. The ego cannot be a part of an individual who is truly being able to draw the ultimate and great blessings that a person is meant to be. Each one of us individually and our world collectively is meant to experience. And if we're not doing that work of eradicating that ego from ourselves, something is going to have to happen in order to put us in a low place where those ego thoughts of superiority are completely eradicated. Again, it took the Israelites 210 years. 210 years of pain and suffering for one purpose. Only to bring them to a place where the ego was no longer a part. And when they looked at their other families and people around them, there was only brotherhood and love, because maybe 220 years ago, we saw ourselves as elevated, but now, avadim ma'inu leparo, we all went to the lowest place. We all went to the darkest place, and from the darkest place, we rise equally. So we'll go a little bit deeper into this, but first, the first, hopefully, awakening that we receive on this Shabbat is to look inside and find, and if you're honest with yourself, the countless people in your life that you view yourself as more than, better than, higher than, not you, your ego is telling you this story. And know that unless you do the work to eradicate those thoughts, only one thing can happen. Egypt, darkness, pain, failure, fallen. There's only two solutions to this problem. And it's a fundamental human problem. It's the problem, of course, of our ego. And unless we are proactively working at it to really get to a place when we look around us and we look at the people, or at least in the way we behave towards others, but hopefully it comes from a deeper place within ourselves, we see only achva bereut. We only see brotherhood and love. We behave in that way. We view the world in that way. As I often say, if you don't do it because it's the way what your soul wants, do it because you're scared of what's going to happen. Chas v'shalom. If you're not doing this work. Very important. Now I want to go a little bit deeper to understand the logic of this. How can it be? How can a person who's, let's say, a good person, let's say doing important things, and we all are to one degree or another, look at somebody who's not? I just saw this person do something really bad. How can you tell me, or how can the Creator expect that I'm going to treat them with achva, with love and brotherhood, when I know who I am here, and I know who they are there? I can lie to myself maybe, I can try to trick myself, but the truth remains, I am here and they're there. So why is the Creator asking us to lie to ourselves? How do we understand the logic of this process, of this necessary process to protect us from darkness, to protect us from falling? So the answer is relatively simple, but again, as I said, we're going to learn something so beautiful and empowering. You know, if you're in a race, right, and it's a 1 mile race, and you're, half a mile ahead of somebody behind you, then the honest truth to yourself will say, I am much further ahead than they are. But if you're on a 1,000-mile race and you're a half a mile ahead of somebody else, then it's inconsequential. You can't even say I'm ahead of them because both of us have so far to go that the half a mile makes no difference. The reason why we are so stupid and fall to the ego that tells us that I am more elevated than you is because our view, not just of them, but of me, and this is the bigger problem, is so small that in the small vision that I have, I'm further ahead than them. So the real solution is not to lie to myself and say, I just saw this guy really do something really bad, and I would never do that. But we're both equal, and we're at the same level of, and therefore my love and brotherhood towards them will be equal. Meaning, one could make the silly conclusion that we're meant to start lying to ourselves. No. The only reason why we allow the ego to make these determinations of higher and lower, and usually in our favor, is because we have the false understanding of who we are and where we're supposed to go. So, if I'm supposed to go only, as we said, only supposed to go to here, and I'm here, and they're there, of course, I'm more elevated than them. But if where I have to go is so further ahead than where I am, the distance between me and him right now is inconsequential. It's silly to even think about. And we're both very far. So, of course, if that is the true view, then there can be brotherhood, and there can be love, and there can be not separation of one above the other. So the deeper work of this Shabbat is to gain a true view of our distance from where we're supposed to be, more importantly, from who we actually are today to who we are meant to be. And if we have a true vision of that, then it becomes much easier to treat everybody and view everybody honestly, as me and you are so far from where we need to be. And true love and true brotherhood can exist.